Bullet's YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
I made a mistake in the Florida 500 video. This is the look of Reed's Soaring Car for the 2015 Piston Cup season. Lightning McQueen will start at pole position for the second race of 2015, where Alex Blowman would be out on lap 28 because of an engine failure, and Joey Logierno would wreck Carl Edwards on lap 327. Why? And then the mean yellow-red car would wreck Lightning McQueen 9 laps later. And then Doug Throttleman and Rep Meeker would accidentally wreck each other on lap 358. And Billy Carjoy would fail to wreck Joey Logierno on lap 385. Kevin Carvick would lead the most laps this race, leading for 124 laps and go on to win the second race of 2015, where Martin Carrix Jr. would finish second this race, Bobby Swift would finish third, Jimmy Cable's fourth, and Ryan Newcar rounding out the top 5, with Bobby Road Testa being the last car to finish on the lead lap, finishing 38th this race. Cal Weathers would start at pole position for the third race of 2015, where Joey Logierno would wreck other cars on lap 236. And then Phil Tankson would fail to wreck the mean yellow and red car. Jamarcus Cakehart would try the same thing, but on lap 293, once again failing to wreck the mean car. Lightning McQueen would lead the most laps this race, leading for 128 laps and go on to win the third race of 2015, where Kevin Carvick would finish second this race, Dale Earnhardt Jr. third, Cal Weathers fourth, and Joey Logierno fifth, rounding out the top 5, and Terry Cargis would be the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 38th. Joey Logierno would start first in the fourth race of 2015, where he would wreck too many other cars on lap 302. And then Phil Tankson would fail to wreck Joey Logierno on lap 305, and then 5 laps later would try again, once again failing to wreck the mean yellow and red car. James Garrison would then try to wreck the mean yellow and red car on lap 317 and fail. Then Billy Carjoy would try to wreck the mean yellow and red car the very next lap and then get pushed by him. Why? And now Billy Carjoy is out. Todd Marcus would be out on lap 390 because of an engine failure. Kevin Carvick would once again lead the most laps this race, leading for 116 laps this race, and Lightning McQueen would win the fourth race of 2015, where Phil Tankson would finish second this race, with Kevin Carvick finishing third, Dale Earnhardt Jr. fourth, and Jamarcus Cakehart rounding out the top 5, with Jack DePost finishing 33rd this race, the last car on the lead lap. Lightning McQueen would start at pole position once again, but for the fifth race of 2015, where Doug Throttleman would be out on lap 1 because of an engine failure, and Rex Revler would be out on lap 18 because of a hard crash. Joey Logierno would wreck other cars on lap 158. And then Sebastian Silva would fail to wreck the mean yellow and red car on lap 160. And then Ryan Newcar would go airborne on lap 169. And then Sebastian Silva would be out on lap 169 as well. And Arthur Carstro would be out on lap 170, all because of Joey Logierno. Why? James Garrison would fail to wreck Joey Logierno on lap 225. And then Denny Carlin would say to Carl Edwards to wreck Lightning McQueen. And Carl Edwards says no, he won't wreck Lightning McQueen. Joey Logierno would lead the most laps this race, leading for 97 laps, and he would lead the final 6 laps of the race. But Phil Tankson would push the mean yellow-red car, and then he would go on to win the 5th race of 2015, with his teammate Chip Gearings finishing second this race, Kevin Carvick finishing third, Lightning McQueen fourth, and Casey Corner rounding out the top 5. Cal Williams would be the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 34th. Kevin Carvick would start at pole position for the 6th race of 2015, where Joey Logierno would wreck too many cars on lap 81. And then 10 laps later, Jamarcus Cakehart would push Joey Logierno on lap 91. And then he would be out the next lap because he hit the inside wall really hard. And then Doug Throttleman would jump over Rex Reveler on lap 93. And on lap 120, Rex Reveler would be out because of engine failure. Speedy Comet would wreck Joey Logierno on lap 133. But he would be out that lap because of hitting the wall. And Joey Logierno is not out. Why? James Garrison would fail to wreck Joey Logierno on lap 174. And then Phil Tankson would also fail to wreck Joey Logierno, but this time on lap 206. Brad Keselowski would wreck Doug Throttleman on lap 228, and then Matthew Overdrive would be out on lap 275 because of engine failure. Joey Logierno would wreck Pitbull Speed Racer and Rev Rodages on lap 307, and then Lightning McQueen would lead the most laps this race, leading for 83 laps. Joey Logierno would be in the lead for the final 8 laps of the race, and then Phil Tankson would push Joey Logierno on lap 400, which would lead Lightning McQueen to win the 6th race of 2015, with Bobby Swift finishing 2nd this race, Phil Tankson finishing 3rd, Kevin Karvik 4th, and Matt Karzith rounding out the top 5, with Dino Draftski being the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 26th. And many Piston Cup fans would boo the mean yellow and red car. And this anonymous Piston Cup fan said this. I agree with him. And also, Jamarcus Kakart would start at pole position for the 7th race of 2015, where Rex Reveler would wreck Doug Throttleman and himself on lap 9, and then Joey Logierno would wreck other cars on lap 54. And then Jamarcus Kakart would fail to wreck Joey Logierno on lap 72, and then Joey Logierno would fail to wreck Jamarcus Kakart the very next lap. Tommy Highbanks would be out on lap 202 because of engine failure. James Garrison would fail to wreck Joey Logierno on lap 436, and then Ernie Garrison would be out on lap 461 because he got too tired. Jimmy Cables would lead the most laps this race, leading for 103 laps this race, but he would be in the lead from laps 484 to lap 499, but with 1 to go, Joey Logierno would wreck Jimmy Cables! Why? But Cal Weathers would be the winner of the 7th race of 2015, with Lightning McQueen finishing 2nd this race, Kurt Busch-Tire finishing 3rd, TG Castlenut 4th, and James Garrison rounding out the top 5, with Maury Clutchburn being the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 30th this race. And Joey Logierno would start at pole position for the 8th race, and many Piston Cup fans would boo the mean yellow and red car. Many Piston Cup fans also booed when Ernie Garrison failed to qualify. Joey Logierno would fail to wreck Lightning McQueen on lap 164, and then James Garrison would fail to wreck Joey Logierno on lap 317. Tony Gasworth would also try to wreck the mean yellow and red car, but fail on lap 332. Joey Logierno would wreck many cars on lap 340. And then, many Piston Cup fans would boo the mean yellow and red car once again. And then, Phil Tankson would fail to wreck the mean yellow and red car with 9 laps to go. And then, during the last cycle of pit stops, Brian Brooks tried to tire fight the mean yellow red car, Joey Logierno. Maybe Brian Brooks has had a change of heart, and why, Piston Cup officials, did you suspend Brian Brooks for the rest of the season for trying to tire fight Joey Logierno? I know he didn't qualify for the race, but do you not know how many Piston Cup fans do not like the mean yellow and red car? About that mean yellow and red car, he led the most laps this race, leading for 68 laps, and then another mean car, Denny Carlin, would push Joey Logierno on the final lap, and then go on to win the 8th race of 2015, with Brad Keselowski finishing 2nd this race, Lightning McQueen finishing 3rd, Doug Throttleman 4th, and that mean yellow-red car would round out the top 5. Johnny Spinner would be the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 34th this race, and Lightning McQueen would start at pole position for the 9th race of 2015. Jay Corner missed qualifying for this race. Brad Keselowski would fail to wreck Sebastian Silva on lap 52, and then Phil Tankson would fail to wreck Joey Logano on lap 54. But there would be no cautions this race. Hooray! Which means, good job, Joey Logano! You didn't wreck any cars! And Lightning McQueen would lead the most laps this race, leading for 72 laps, including pole. But Brad Keselowski would still win the 9th race of 2015, where Lightning McQueen would finish 2nd this race, Kevin Harvick would finish 3rd, Bobby Swift 4th, and Cal Weathers rounding out the top 5. Trevor Turnrev would finish 43rd this race. And Bob Cutlass would say this. I mean, a race where all 43 cars finish on the lead lap is almost unheard of. How did no one crash or have an engine failure this race? Bobby Swift would start at pole position for the 10th race of 2015, where Speedy Comet would accidentally wreck a bunch of cars and himself on lap 10, and then Joey Logano would wreck 2 other cars on lap 193, and then Phil Tankson would fail to wreck Joey Logano 3 laps later. Bobby Swift would lead the most laps this race, leading for 302 laps this race, including pole, and go on to win the 10th race of 2015, with Kevin Harvick finishing 2nd this race, with Lightning McQueen finishing 3rd, Kurt Busch tire 4th, and Phil Tankson rounding out the top 5. Dirksen D'Agostino would be the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 37th. Phil Tankson would start 1st for the 11th race of 2015, where Joey Logano would wreck more cars on lap 335, and then Billy Carjoy would wreck Joey Logano on lap 352, which would lead many Piston Cup fans to cheer. Hooray for Billy Carjoy! Billy Carjoy would be out the very next lap because he hit the inside wall. Kevin Harvick would accidentally wreck Casey Corner and himself on lap 374, and Brad Keselowski would wreck Jamarcus Cakehart on lap 388. Cal Williams would wreck Brad Keselowski the very next lap, and then Ernie Gearson would be out on lap 390 because he got too tired. Kevin Harvick would lead the most laps this race, leading for 134 laps this race, but Matt Kenseth would go on to win the 11th race of 2015, where Lightning McQueen would finish 2nd this race, Brick Yardley 3rd, TG Castlenut 4th, and Bobby Swift rounding out the top 5. Reb Meeker would be the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 33rd. Cal Weathers would start at pole position for the 12th race of 2015, where Joey Logano would wreck more cars on lap 377. Why? And then many Piston Cup fans would boo the mean yellow and red car. Ace Arrowhead would try to tire fight Joey Logano from pit road, and then get suspended for the next 5 races. This would lead Piston Cup fans to boo Piston Cup officials. And then an anonymous Piston Cup fan says this. I mean, he's right. And Trick Hicks says this. Since when has it been your business over other racers getting suspended? You are the racer who's had the most suspensions out of any Piston Cup racer. Craig Shiftright would say this to the mean green car. Well, I mean, if it was allowed, everyone would have tried tire fighting the mean green car. Martin Truex Jr. would lead the most laps this race, leading for 129 laps, but Brick Yardley would be the winner of the 12th race of 2015, with Carl Edwards finishing 2nd this race, Bobby Swift finishing 3rd, Jimmy Cable's 4th, and Greg People rounding out the top 5, with Rex Revler being the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 37th. This is the standings after 1/3 of the 2015 Piston Cup season, with Kevin Harvick surprisingly being the points leader. 2nd and 3rd makes sense. Joey Logano's 4th. Martin Truex Jr. rounds out the top 5. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is 6th in points with Bobby Swift, Brad Keselowski, Brick Yardley, and Matt Kenseth rounding out the top 10, with Denny Carlin being 11th in points as the number 11. Carl Edwards, Phil Tankson, Jimmy Cables, and Casey Corner round out the top 15. And then James Garrison, Ryan Newcar, Clint Bokar, Jamarcus Cakart, and Jamie McCarry round out the top 20.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
Why, Piston Cup officials, did you suspend both Brian Brooks and Ace Arrowhead for trying to tire fight the mean yellow-red car? He is a mean car! About mean cars, the mean green car, Chick Hicks, was able to race for so long because of these inept Piston Cup officials. Let's hope that they do not screw up in the next video, which will be covering the 2015 Piston Cup races 13 to 24. The next video will be coming out soon enough. Unfortunately, the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine is still going on. The Ukrainian people just wanted to live in peace and have freedom, but this common dream was ruined by the tyrant and bully, Vladimir Putin. Why did you have to start this unjustified war? Did you forget that Russia is the biggest country in the world? Why would you need to take even more land from Ukraine? This land, right as of right now, is Crimea, the Donbass, and parts of the Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, and Kherson oblasts of Ukraine. This land totaling to around 1/5 of Ukraine's total territory. Every day, it gets harder for Ukraine to win the war because Ukraine is running out of soldiers to fight against Vladimir Putin's tyranny. We here at the K.A. Bullets Piston Cup YouTube channel stand with Ukraine in their fight against Vladimir Putin's tyranny. Slava Ukraini! Heroyam slava! Nechai Shvitsya Darvatsya Ukraini Permoha! Glory to Ukraine! Glory to the heroes! May Ukraine be granted victory very soon!